What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Sorry for the lack of content over the last few days. As you guys have seen, there hasn't been a ton of Toronto Maple Leafs news and rumors and talk like that. So I kind of wanted to just go and make a video over, what's kind of gone on around the league and compare it to what Toronto can do a little bit. I'm not going to be talking about specific deals like consistently. I'm just going to be talking about one to compare it to with some of the talk that the Toronto Maple Leafs have been involved in. So if you are new to this channel, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. I know there's a ton of people that watch these videos that aren't subscribed. It would really help the channel if you just hit the like button and subscribe. If you do enjoy the content, I'd greatly appreciate it. And thank you to all the new subscribers lately. So let's get on with the video. So basically what I wanted to talk about was where the Leafs can go from here. And every time we make a video, we say, okay, this is what they did, this is who they signed, this is who they traded for, but what's next? What else can they do? Now, if you ask me, the Leafs roster is still incomplete. They've been a little bit quiet because they were looking, and what Kyle Dubas said, they were looking for like the second wave of free agents, of people that could be signing for a cheaper contract. Now, one of the guys that was considered a, second wave contract signing would have been a guy like Thomas Tatar. But he just signed for 2 years at a $4.5 million AAV. Tatar's a good player, but he's been scratched in the last 2 Stanley Cup finals. So it's like, okay, well, what are we missing here? Well, he scores a lot, and we'll get to that in a second. We'll look at his numbers. But it's like, I thought this guy was going to be in the second wave of free agents that wasn't going to be too expensive. It's kind of quite the opposite. This guy is getting $4.5 million. It's a little bit of an overpayment in my opinion. I thought he was going to go for cheaper. I really did. From what all the narratives people were talking about, some of the insiders were saying Tatar could end up with a deal in the $2.5 to $3 million range, which technically the Toronto Maple Leafs with another move could have done. But if they were going to get him at like 2.5 with the roster I'm going to show you guys in a second, they probably could have got it done. But now I'm starting to see that they might be circling around to somebody else. So let me just look at this, okay? So from what I was explaining, if we had Mikheyev and Engvall both traded, okay, let's just say they're traded or sent down, whatever, but they're not on the roster, right? One of them gets sent down, Engvall's cap hit would essentially get buried, maybe Mikheyev gets traded, or both. You would have $2.9 million to go out there and get a replacement. Now, you could just put Nick Robertson up here and have, $2 million to accumulate cap space, right? But I think the Toronto Maple Leafs still wanted to go after another guy that could play the wing or potentially get another centerman to put Kerfoot over on the wing here and bump everyone down like I was talking about, then get a fourth line centerman, put David Kampf on the third line, and then go with, more of a checking defensive line with like Richie, Kampf, and Kasha, right? So you'd have a little bit of defense with him. You'd have Kasha, who's a good two-way player if he's healthy, and you'd have the physical aspect with Nick Ritchie. You could circle around to somebody else, which you can probably see the name already, but Thomas Tatar is the guy that I was just saying. We're going to do a little refresh here because this was from a couple days ago. But as you can see now, $4.5 million for the Devils. They've been spending a lot of money. But the Devils are going to be paying him $4.5 million for the next 2 seasons. Like I said, it's a little rich. I didn't think that he was going to sign for that much, but nonetheless, if you look at his numbers, 30 points in 50 games played last season, 61 and 68 the previous season with 22 goals, 58 and 80 with 25. So he was producing for the Habs. He had, he had some good numbers for Detroit. When he came over from Detroit to Vegas, he didn't do too much in the regular season or in the playoffs. And they traded, I believe, a first, a second, and a third for him. It was a very expensive last-minute deal. But this is a contract that I think is like at face value could be decent, but no production in the playoffs. Essentially, since, in the 14-15 season, he had 4 points in 7 games. But other than that, I mean, he hasn't really done much. He hasn't really done much in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he puts up good numbers. But regardless, Thomas Tatar is a guy that I definitely thought was going to be signing for cheaper, and the Toronto Maple Leafs probably could have afforded him at a $2.5 million contract for a 2 or 3 year deal if they had to give him that extra year just to get him at a cheaper hit. But The guy that I think that they could circle around to, and I know some people might not like the idea, but I actually genuinely think it's a good idea. Alex Galchenyuk, still unsigned. I'm wondering how much his price is going to be at. If it's anything over $2 million, it's too expensive. But if you could get him at a $1.5 million deal or even a $1 million deal, I thought for sure he was going to get one. Maybe the Leafs could be like, listen, man, we'll give you a couple years at 1.3, 1.4, which could be stretching it a little bit. But getting Galchenyuk for the next couple years would be nice, in my opinion. He had 12 points in 26 games played. He looked really good towards the end of the season. And then 4 points in 6 games on that really good Nylander, Kerfoot, Galchenyuk line in the playoffs. Like, they were good. I don't think people, like, listen, the Leafs sucked in that series after they were up 3-1. They sucked. But that Galchenyuk, Kerfoot, Nylander line was good the whole series, in my opinion. Galchenyuk had a little bit of a giveaway, let's be honest. But Galchenyuk actually played really well. Like, one giveaway, you can't blame the whole series on that one giveaway. There was guys that didn't show up for any of the games, and a lot of the guys didn't show up for any of the games. But I thought Galchenyuk actually played pretty well for Toronto. He started to show a little bit more promise. He told the team that he was really interested in the way that they were treating him and everything like that. So it's kind of surprising to me that he wasn't signed. I thought for sure he'd be one of the first guys the Leafs would sign. But if I were the Leafs, I would try to go back at him with a 1 or 2 year deal, preferably 2, at a $1 to $1.4 million deal, and be like, listen, man, you had 12 points in 26 games played. You showed up a little bit in the playoffs for us, but there's not a ton of teams knocking on your door. Let's be honest here, because he probably would have signed already, right? There was already mid-tier to lower-tier signings that were made, a ton of them, and he wasn't one of them. So if they can circle back to him and be like, dude, listen, we think you're really good, but not at the whatever price you're looking for, I think that it would make sense. Now, you guys probably seen the thumbnail. You've probably seen the name already. Max Domi. Right now, Columbus is trying to trade him, and for some reason, Leaf fans still want to get him. The first problem is this $5.3 million cap hit. The Leafs would have to get them to cut that in half, and then you would have to try to find a third team probably to eat some of that contract, which you could, but you're wasting a lot of assets. The other thing is, and again, I've never been in the dressing room. I've never been a guy to come out here and call out people on their dressing room etiquette because we're not in the locker room. But if this guy keeps getting moved and it's being talked about that he's not exactly the best guy in the locker room, I'm going to say I'm leaning more towards believing that he's a problem in the locker room. But again, I don't know. I have no idea. Max Domi is a very physical player. He can score, and he's 26. He can put up points, but that cap hit is not worth it. 24 points in 54 games played. You basically, like, 44 and 71, like, he's good. Like, you can see the numbers are there. He's scored, over 20 goals. He's put up good numbers. But it's like, how much are you willing to pay to get teams to eat salary? But you probably need a 3-team deal, let's be honest, to get a guy that possibly might not be the greatest in the locker room. Now, he's only got 1 year left on his deal, so it would probably be a little bit easier to get people to eat salary on this deal, but do the Leafs want to do that? What would it cost? What's the acquisition cost? Especially to make them eat some of that cap hit. I just don't know if it's worth it. But I just wanted to give you guys my general feelings on a few of the names that were floated out there. Of course, the Tatar one is gone now because he signed and he got overpaid, in my opinion. Galchenyuk, I think that he's a perfect fit. I'd really like to see him as a depth forward in this lineup. I think he did fantastic on the second line. He looked good on the third line. He played great with everybody. He was a spark plug in this lineup for a long time. So I actually genuinely hope he does come back, because that would complete a pretty damn good offseason. And at first I wasn't liking some of the moves, but if Toronto can accumulate cap space towards the trade deadline and then make a bigger move, I'm okay with this roster. I think it's fine. But again, we have to see what the finished product looks like. We have to see, because Josh Hosang might make this team too. Who knows? If he plays good, that's only better for the Leafs. So I want to hear what you guys have to say down below. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Join the squad. I appreciate you guys as always, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.